Hello and welcome everyone to this new presentation of cricket.com. Uh, you know, a lot of people have a lot of questions for me. They try and interact with me a lot. So me along with the people at cricket.com thought that why not let's do a weekly thing wherein we just take your questions and try and answer them and have a genuine conversation and try and engage the fans a lot, because what we at cricket.com have been able to identify is that somewhere fans really go missing in the conversation when it comes to cricket, whether it be about selections or the facilities at the stadium, or fans not being even in the loop about general or basic information. And so a lot of things that fans want to know or want to talk about go missing in the conversation. So this is one attempt, and this is not the only attempt. That is something that I want to say. We are not just taking questions for this show, which is a deep point with GillyCricket, but we are also taking your questions for other shows as well. We are also taking your feedback for other shows as well. Like we received a lot of feedback for the show with Dan Weston that we just started this week, and it will be coming out again on Tuesday. So be assured that at cricket.com we'll always be looking forward to your feedback, whether good or bad, and trying to work upon it. So on this note, I want to start this show, and I want to tell you that I am delighted that we are doing this show, and I couldn't be more happier for this opportunity. And before I start taking in questions from the people who are joining in, there are already three comments that have come in by Subodh, where he's asking who are better finishers, range hitters or power hitters, who's better player of every type of spin, bowling, Shreyas Iyer or Surya, what is the global head of performance role, what is this at Mumbai Indians. I'll get to all these questions. Don't worry, Subodh. My only issue is that I'll first take the questions that came beforehand, and some of those questions are actually good ones, and I'll just get to it. Uh, just give me a minute. And I just want to let everyone on Twitter know that we are just going live, and just asking the people to come live once again. Yeah. So, who do you think has the fastest hand in cricket worlds? This is Vishal asking. Vishal AB de Villiers. Well, this is one of those questions where the answer is within the question. So, I feel AB de Villiers genuinely is one of the has some is someone who has the fastest hands in world cricket. So, both I'll get to your questions. Let me first answer the questions that have already come in. And one of the good questions that have come in is that which is very recent, that should Anil Kumble have been given 2 more years as the coach of Punjab Kings? Well, before I get to this question, I want to let the person know who sent in that question that Anil Kumble was already the coach of Punjab Kings for 3 years, and under him Punjab couldn't reach the playoffs. Now that is a very long rope. Although what I personally feel is that in the 2022 IPL, he was at his best. He had a lot more conviction in his ideas. He had a lot more thought process to his ideas, and tactically he was the best. But 3 years is a long time, and especially when you're one of those franchisees who has only reached the playoffs twice, once in 2008 and the other in 2014. The playoffs, it's difficult to get that kind of a long rope. And Punjab actually, before Anil Kumble, all Punjab coaches only used to get one season. So I don't think Anil Kumble can complain that much. But yes, there was a case where he could have been given that extra role, but I fully understand why he's not being given that role. Then there's another question: how do you see Steve Smith's future in T20s given Mitchell Marsh plays at three? I personally would not have kept Steve Smith in my T20 squad for Australia, because I do feel even in the last World T20 he was only used as a fail-safe option, where he didn't even get a lot of time to bat. So I think they've gone with the same thought process. They around to save a collapse if that happens. But in my opinion, that's not his best format. So yeah, I don't see him becoming a better T20 player unless he works on his range. And mind you, he has some very fast hands, so it's easier for someone like him to work on his range. Probably add the power game a little bit as well. I'm not saying that he can't become a better T20 player, but at this point of time, I don't think he's a very good T20 player. Then there's a question by Mithul who's asking, how do you rate Kohli's performance in the Asia Cup? Well, the smile on my face tells the answer for this question. I personally thought that even without the 100, that this Asia Cup was a huge confidence booster for the team management as well as Virat Kohli, as well as the fans of Indian cricket team. I'm not saying the fans of Virat Kohli, but fans of Indian cricket team, because Virat Kohli for a World Cup in Australia was important. Him getting back his flow was very important, and the way he played spin, it reminded me of the times where he would, score 100 pretty much every weekend. So really happy to see him perform this way, and I have no complaints. I think he's performed more than what I expected. The cricket nerd in me thought he couldn't really dominate that way, but the cricket fan in me always believed that he could. And for once, I am happy to see the cricket fan in me get the better of the cricket nerd in me. So very very happy on that front. Uh, one question that has come in is, don't you think we are lacking cricketing intellect in the media, more agenda driven and outdated? Well, I can't really say for others, but one thing that I'd say is that the reason I am at cricket.com, and the reason we are doing these shows such as wrong ones with Weston, or our decoded features, or our weekly features, is because we want to change it. We want that our content shouldn't really have any agenda, and it's backed up with numbers as well as data as well as cricketing logic. So I can't really say it is the case for others. If fans do feel that has become the case, maybe there is that case, and that is the reality. But we at cricket.com are trying to do something different, and I hope whatever you see, you enjoy it and you keep giving your feedbacks. So now there have been questions. I want to take this question by Jim Morarty. What is Yeah, before I do that, just so Jim Morarty is asking, what is wrong with Rishabh Pant? Why is he not able to replicate the form of 2017-2018 IPL? This is a very good question, and I think there are two layers to it. One, uh, when you just burst onto the scene, teams aren't better prepared for you. They really don't know what are your strengths and weaknesses. But once you start playing, teams start studying you. They start preparing better for you, and there have been a lot of examples of this in cricketing history. Even in the IPL, we've had some amazing one season wonders who've really not been able to, take their performance to the next level come their second or the third season. I'm not saying that Rishabh Pant is a one season wonder, because he had a very good season back in 2019 as well. 2020 and 2021 were, seasons which he would like to forget. But 2022, I thought he was getting back to his aggressive self. He had an average of nearly 30 and a strike rate of 150, but couldn't really play those long innings. But coming to the question, I think this happens to a lot of players where they're not able to replicate their first great season because teams start studying them. In the IPL, we've had the likes of Swapnil Asnodkar, Kamran Khan of Rajasthan Royals. There was also Paul Valthati. I'm sure CSK fans will remember this. Someone like Manvinder Bisla, who was very great, who was actually good in the 2012 season, couldn't really replicate it. So there have been a lot of one season wonders in the IPL and even in international cricket, where once the players have been sorted out, once they've not been able to replicate those performances. This happened even with someone like Ajanta Mendes, where he really had a honeymoon period from 2008 to 2009, maybe even 2010. But post that, once his mystery was figured out, he really couldn't take the next step, which is why I really like someone like Ravichandran Ashwin, who keeps on experimenting, keeps on trying new things despite the conventional wisdom saying otherwise, wherein conventional wisdom and ex-cricketers always keep telling you to do the same thing that you've done over and over again. But Ravichandran Ashwin, on that note, I really like him because he keeps trying these new things, which I think work really well for him. And like I told you through examples, if you don't try and evolve your game, you sometimes struggle to take it to the next level, and you can't really work on from there. Coming to Rishabh Pant, I think the issue with him is his wide line, his shots on the wide line. What I have felt watching him back in T20s is sometimes he becomes too premeditated towards hitting on the leg side, and when he starts doing that, his whole stance, his whole makeup, the way he's standing, gives and tells the bowler as well that he's looking to go on the leg side. And then smart bowlers try and pick those small hints and small things, wherein they look at your feet, they look at your feet movement, where how you're moving, how you're premeditating, and then they bowl accordingly. And that has started to happen with Rishabh Pant in T20 internationals. Even in the IPL, teams have started to bowl him wide outside off, and he really needs to work on that weakness. Probably add a few more shots and probably not premeditate as much, because when he's not premeditating in ODIs or Test matches, he can really hit the ball which is on the fourth or the fifth stump towards the cover boundary, towards the point boundary, because he's not premeditating. I think it's got to do both with his premeditation and maybe lack of shot square on the wicket. Probably that is the case. Once he does that, I think he'll be able to overcome this weakness, and I think that he's genuinely good enough to overcome that weakness. It's just a phase. Hopefully, he overcomes that weakness in Australia come the T20 World Cup. Then there's this question uh, by Yash Paji, Hindi would be better to attract more audience. Well, I'll do both Hindi and English. आपको अगर अपना क्वेश्चन हिंदी में भेजना है तो आप हिंदी में भेजो, मैं वैसे आंसर करूंगा. क्वेश्चन इंग्लिश में आया था, एंड आई थिंक जिम इज probably a foreigner given, if I look at his name, so I shifted to English, but I am happy doing both. तो आपको अगर हिंदी में आंसर चाहिए, you can send your question in English as well. अगर आपको इंग्लिश में टाइप करना है और आप लिख दो कि आपको हिंदी में आंसर चाहिए, तो I'll answer in Hindi. Uh, who is a dangerous T20 batsman, Butler or Sky? Uh, Surya Kumar Yadav is quite good, but I think Josh Butler here is the one who takes the cake because of for how long he's been able to consistently deliver in T20 format. So I think it's a straightforward answer for me. It's Josh Butler. Maybe Surya Kumar Yadav will reach that level in the future, but at present it is Josh Butler. Why KL is too cautious in the power play? It's a question which I don't think will ever leave me or KL Rahul. I think it's probably got to do with a lot of things. When he started adopting this approach, it was probably to secure himself a place in the Indian ODI setup, because it started happening in the second half of the IPL 2019, and then he didn't want to lose his place, because at one particular time Indian selectors were rewarding players with more runs than quick runs or impact runs. So I think that played a part. And then he started to take this approach because he felt that no one else could do that role, and the team would collapse all the time. My personal suggestion was that if he was too worried about the collapse, then he should come down and bat at number 3 or number 4, and allow the lesser batters to take the advantage of the power play and express themselves better. I hope that this approach changes, because if two players who are more senior to you in Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli are willing to be not as cautious as what they used to be, then I don't think someone like KL Rahul, who's probably at the peak of his career, at the peak of his powers, should be doing that. Because mind you, his game against spin at this point of time is better than the game that Virat and Rohit have had in the last 2-3 years. So there is absolutely no reason for KL to be cautious. If he is extra cautious, I think he'll ensure that he gets dropped, even if the team management doesn't want to drop him. This is an interesting question by Vicky. Why don't we back our express bowlers as much as those who have control? There is always more outrage when the express pacers go for runs than someone like Bhui. Interesting. I have personally, said this while Umran Malik's name was up for discussion in this IPL, that someone like Umran Malik needs to play a bit more domestic cricket to become a more robust bowler. Because there's also you also have to look at the particular team structures. Now, someone like England or someone like Australia, who have probably seven or eight bowling options, they can afford a bowler who can be erratic on his day. India really don't have that luxury, because they only have one all rounder, who's Hardik Pandya, in the top 6. So for that, it is difficult for Indian team management to get someone like Umran Malik, who can be erratic at times, straight away in the 11. So you have to see how he progresses, carry him along in the A tours, carry him in the match, and then see how well he's coming along. As far as fans are concerned, I think now the perception of fans are changing. They do want extra spaces, but I think from the team management point of view, not having enough bowling options is one of the reasons why they don't get as much backing. But I think in test matches, these bowlers will eventually get the backing, because you see someone like Navdeep Saini now being given a decent amount of run in India A, whether it be the 4-day test matches or the ODI games. So I think that perception is now changing, but sometimes you also get carried away with raw pace, because that isn't everything. You also need a little bit of control, because in T20 overs you can lose a game in 1 or 2 overs, especially if you don't have a backup. So yeah, it's a touch and go kind of a thing. But I think the perception is changing, and the Indian management as well as the fans understand that raw pace is something that you can't teach anyone. Movement you can, but raw pace you really can't. Going to next question. Sir, with Akshar at 7, this is Cricket Talk with PY. I suppose this is Piyush. Uh, I've spoken to him a few times before. Sir, with Akshar at 7, whom will India pick at 8, Harshal or Arshdeep in T20 World Cup? This is an interesting one. I suppose the choice between the third pacer is also going to come down to the ground dimensions. See, if India are playing at some place like Adelaide, where the straight boundary is longer than the square boundary, then I think India will play someone like Arshdeep because of his natural length that he bowls, which is fuller, and the Yorker length, where the batters will only look or can only hit a bowler down the ground. But I think if India are playing in a ground where the square boundary is bigger, say if they are playing in Melbourne, where or even in Brisbane. Brisbane really has around, if I'm not wrong, around 65-meter straight boundaries and 75-80-meter square boundaries. On that pitches, on those venues, Harshal's slower ball becomes effective, and there are chances of batters finding the fielder in the deep on a few occasions. So I think that will also be a factor. And if India do play someone like Chahal, then Bhuvi or Harshal, if Harshal plays bad side, the issue here is that Harshal's also not done a lot with the bat for India. So these 6 T20s, which I feel will be sort of a trial run for India, wherein they'll try to see what Harshal can do with the bat. If Harshal impresses with his ability with the bat, then I think that could also become a factor. But Arshdeep's bowling at the depth, along with the left arm factor, is also something which is not easy to ignore. And it will also come down to the spinner that India are playing. If India do play Ashwin against South Africa, where South Africa might have 3 left-handers in the top 5, and India might also have West Indies in their group, and if Ashwin plays there as well to counter the likes of Myers, Hetmeyer, Puran, etc., then Ashwin bats at 8. So then I think if Ashwin's batting at 8, then India can actually really look to play someone like Arshdeep over Harshal. So it's going to be interesting. I don't think it's a straight answer. It is subject. It is a subjective answer, which will depend on a couple of other factors that I just mentioned. Subodh Chavan's asking, Gurkirat Paji, instead of selecting Shami for T20 World Cup, sitting him on the bench, selectors could have picked a youngster like Prasid, Mohsin, etc. Why they have gone back to him? This is a very good question, because clearly if Shami is not in the squad and he's there as a backup, the management and the selectors realize that he's not a good enough T20 bowler for to be in the 15. So why are you sticking with him in the reserves? I think a lot of this also comes down to the selectors and the management wanting to escape criticism. There was a lot of pressure outside, wherein Shami's name was being brought up by ex-cricketers, and not only Indian ex-cricketers, even someone like Brett Lee took his name, and commentators talking about Muhammad Shami. So I think they just want someone who can be a fail-safe option, right? And amongst all the bowlers that are there in the uh, in the setup, they feel that Shami is a better fail-safe option as opposed to a Prasid, Mohsin, or even an Avesh, or even a Natarajan, or even a Yash Dayal. There are quite a few options, or even a Mukesh Chaudhary, because if India don't do well, there will always be a talk that, oh, you didn't even take an experienced pacer like Mohammad Shami. Now this might not seem that this might seem that I'm resorting to those cliches which I usually don't use. But you have to look at the last World Cup. A lot of criticism of Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri was down to the fact that they didn't pick Yuzvendra Chahal, and they picked up someone like Varun Chakravarti and Rahul Chahar over someone as experienced as Yuzvendra Chahal. But if you look at it very closely, the two matches that India lost, they weren't because they selected a Varun Chakravarti or a Rahul Chahar over Yuzvendra Chahal. They lost those matches with the bat, but still they keep getting criticism for that. So I think the only reason why Shami is being selected in the reserves is because selectors and the management want to go with someone with experience as a fail-safe option, as someone who's completely raw and new. Because even if you fail, you will not get as much criticism that you might get if you carry a rookie or a newbie. And I know this might not make sense to a lot of people over here, but this is what I feel is the reason why Mohammad Shami has been selected. Moving to next question. Who's a better player of every type? This again a question by Subodh. Who's a better player of every type of spin bowling, Shreyas Iyer or Surya Kumar Yadav? I It's Surya Kumar Yadav. The numbers will tell you as well. The only kind of bowling that Surya Kumar Yadav struggles against is left arm spin. On the other hand, Shreyas Iyer struggles against wrist spin as well. This IPL he was dismissed to wrist spin 6 times. So yeah, for me it's straightforward. I could look up the numbers right now, but I want you to do that. I'll drop those numbers later, probably in the comments. But numbers wise, skill wise, and even if you look at the shots, it is someone like Surya Kumar Yadav. Shreyas Iyer also doesn't play the sweep a lot. He plays the slog sweep, but he doesn't play the sweep which is square of the wicket, with someone like with someone like a Surya Kumar Yadav plays. So Surya Kumar Yadav definitely the better player against spin bowling, without a doubt. Utkarsh is asking, I will only play one of Rahul or VK playing, as it would allow two LHB in top 7, but can't see it happening. Where would you hedge your bets, as there is no easy answer? Uh, I can see why Utkarsh is saying this, because the importance of a left-hander cannot be stated enough. It was one of the reasons why Punjab Kings struggled in this IPL, because they didn't have a left-hander in the middle order. Uh, between KL Rahul and Virat Kohli, there is no question of who would one want to hedge their bets on. Virat Kohli has proven himself across formats, uh, in big tournaments as well, and very recently, if you look at his form as well, he seems to be getting back to his old self. Even if he doesn't get back to his own version of 2016 to 2019, even if he gets back to 80% of that, I think Virat, even that 80% of 2016 to 2019, Virat Kohli will be better than a lot of cricketers at present. So between Virat and Rahul, without a doubt, I would hedge my bets on Virat Kohli. But I do feel that at this point of time, someone like Rishabh Pant will struggle to make the 11 despite the left-hander tax, because India would like to use Akshar Patel in the same role as they used someone like Ravindra Jadeja in the first game against Pakistan. And if Akshar Patel does well in that role, then he could continue with that role in Australia, and we could see someone like Rishabh Pant being out of the 11. I don't see Dinesh Karthik being left out, because the two games that India lost, in those two games in the last 5 overs, India only scored 46 runs. And India probably realized the value that someone like Dinesh Karthik, with his skill and range against pace, brings as a finisher. So I don't see Dinesh Karthik being dropped, and I see Pant's place being an issue. But if KL Rahul doesn't do well in the 60-20 internationals coming up, then maybe Rishabh Pant might walk in place of him. Moving on to the next question. Interesting selection of Raj Bawa. Archit Aryaman saying, interesting selection of Raj Bawa in India. The side is decent and no live telecast of domestic matches. I would have loved to see Prithvi's innings of today. Also, Shams Malani is one for the future. It's not a question. It's more of a four statements. But yes, there should have been a live telecast of these domestic games. If smaller boards can do it, then I think BCCI should also do it, at least on their YouTube, so that people can watch. And yes, Raj Bawa's selection is interesting. Probably they want to, like, a TOI report said that they want to look for replacements for someone like Hardik Pandya. That's okay, but what is more surprising to me from the India selection is that why is someone like Ishan Kishan missed out? Because he's not done as badly to be dropped from the India team altogether. But even if he's been dropped because there are better players, he should definitely be in the India A team. And same goes for Avesh Khan. Avesh Khan has done poorly, but if you've backed him to do well for India, then I think he deserves a little bit of backing in the India A circuit, if not in the Indian team. So maybe I see how all this would have been better if the selectors would have taken a press conference. But I think maybe both these cricketers have been told that they probably need to work on their skills a lot more. Avesh Khan really needs to work on his control and probably go back and play for Madhya Pradesh. The Syed Mushtaq Ali trophy will be around the corner very soon. So hopefully we see both these cricketers do well and stake a claim to be in the India A side once again. I've If Akshar fails to perform in home series, can we see four seamers plus Chahal plus Hardik play in Australia considering their conditions? No, because that would mean that India will probably have their batting finishing at number six, and in those four seamers you will have Harshal, Arshdeep, Bhuvi, Bumrah, and Chahal. And barring Harshal, you you literally have four number 11s. If not four number 11s, four number 10. So I don't see that happening. If Akshar doesn't do well, I think someone like Hooda will get a chance. Also, Hardik will be resting from one of the series. I think he's resting against South Africa or probably Australia. I'm not really sure, but he will be resting from one of those series. So India will probably play Hooda and Akshar both in these series, and we'll see who does better. Because I don't see India going with this combination at all, because it really shortens the batting, and what that ensures is that your top three then have no other option but to anchor, especially when they're batting first, right? Because if batting first, you lose two wickets in the power play, and you have Harshal Patel at number seven, followed by four number 11s. There is no way you can bat freely. You will have to be cognizant of the fact, and this is something that Delhi Capitals suffered with a lot in the 2021 IPL once Marcus Stoinis was injured, because their batting would finish at number six, and they wouldn't really trust Harshal Patel at number seven. But last year, as Harshal Patel has shown in this IPL as well, that he's worked on his batting. So Akshar Patel rather. So I don't see India going in with four seamers plus Chahal plus Hardik at all. So that's what I feel, Himanshu. If India do differently, I'll be very surprised. Vishal Rana is asking, if Chahal does well against Pakistan in the first match, then who should play between Ashwin versus Chahal against South Africa? I feel that India will still might play Ashwin against South Africa, because of the number of left-handers that South Africa have. Plus, there will be Akshar Patel who will take the ball away from the right-handers in the South African lineup. And they also play South Africa in Perth, which is one of the fastest pitches. So yeah, I still see I would have definitely played Ashwin over Chahal against South Africa. Not sure if the team management would do it. Yash Parmar is asking, why MI went with Boucher given Boucher doesn't have any experience coaching T20 side. Seems MI isn't serious about winning the title. They are focusing on business and expansion. Uh, यश ने बिकॉज यश हैड आस्क्ड मी टू स्पीक इन हिंदी, तो मैं ये आंसर हिंदी में दूंगा. यश, मुझे ऐसा ही लगता कि एमआई जैसी बड़ी टीम जिसने 5 आईपीएल्स जीते हैं और 2 चैंपियंस लीग के टूर्नामेंट जीते हैं, कि उनका फोकस सिर्फ बिजनेस और एक्सपेंशन पे होगा. दे विल डेफिनेटली वांट टू विन टाइटल्स. एंड मार्क बाउचर अभी रिसेंटली तक साउथ अफ्रीका की टीम के कोच थे, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि उन्हें एक्सपीरियंस नहीं होगा. एंड हर कोच की एक बिगिनिंग होती है. मे बी उनको लगता है कि मार्क बाउचर ऐसे साउथ अफ्रीकन प्लेयर्स को जानते हैं जो उन्हें हेल्प करेंगे आगे अपनी टीम्स बिल्ड करने में. मे बी उनको लगता है कि मार्क बाउचर उन्हें एक ऐसा टेक्निकल नो हाउ दे सकते हैं जो कि और कोई कोच ना दे पाए. ये कैसे जाएगा एंड हाउ विल इट टर्न आउट, ये तो हम अभी नहीं बोल सकते. हमको वेट करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि अभी हमने रिसेंटली देखा है कि साउथ अफ्रीका से टैलेंट बहुत निकल के आता है, और साउथ अफ्रीका से इतना टैलेंट निकल के आता है कि वो इंग्लैंड और न्यूजीलैंड को भी बहुत फायदा करता है. आप समझ सकते हैं मैं क्या कहना चाह रहा हूँ, क्योंकि काफी प्लेयर्स जो साउथ अफ्रीका से आ रहे हैं वो न्यूजीलैंड और इंग्लैंड के लिए खेलते हैं. तो ये चीज जो है, इस पे हमें थोड़ा वेट करना पड़ेगा. इससे पता लगेगा कि क्या मार्क बाउचर को जज करने से पहले हमें वेट करना पड़ेगा कि कैसी टीम बनाई जाती है मुंबई इंडियंस की, केप टाउन के फ्रेंचाइज के बारे में और बाकी फ्रेंचाइज के बारे में. एंड उससे हमें आइडिया लगेगा. बिकॉज मेरे को लगता है कि अगर एमआई ने मार्क बाउचर को कोच बनाया है आईपीएल की टीम का, तो वो इस नज़र से भी बनाया है कि उनको लगता है कि मार्क बाउचर जो है वो एक अच्छे स्काउट प्रूव हो सकते हैं साउथ अफ्रीका जैसी जगह पे। और हमें ये नहीं बोलना चाहिए मार्को यानसन, ट्रिस्टियन स्टब्स एंड ब्रेविस, जो कि साउथ अफ्रीका अंडर 19 वर्ल्ड कप में साउथ अफ्रीका के लिए खेल रहे थे, ये सारे प्लेयर्स साउथ अफ्रीका से आए हैं। तो मेरे को ये लगता है कि यहाँ पर यही थॉट प्रोसेस है कि साउथ अफ्रीका के हिडन टैलेंट को परखा जाए और पहचाना जाए थ्रू मार्क बाउचर, और फिर उनको आईपीएल में लाया जाए। ये मेरी सोच है। क्या ऐसा होगा नहीं होगा वो तो टाइम ही बताएगा। मैं आपके क्वेश्चन ही देख रहा हूँ। This is an interesting question by Shubham Sharma. Why don't we have separate teams for different formats and contain players pertaining to specific batting positions and bowling needs? We are selecting players on reputation rather than performance. I won't say that there isn't merit in this question, because this has happened in the past, wherein Indian selectors have picked players who've batted well in the top three to bat for India at number 4, 5, 6, 7. Even someone like Deepak Hooda has done well at number 3 for Lucknow Super Giants. And this has happened in the past, where Shreyas Iyer and Manish Pandey were also a part of the Indian T20 team, batting at number 4 and number 5, when they were batting at number 3 for their franchisees, which I feel also wasn't their best position, because both of them, their best position lies opening the batting. But anyway, uh, I think यहाँ पर एक और चीज है. There's also another thing that is here, that at the end of the day, what we also have to understand is that, whether it be test cricket or ODI cricket or T20 cricket, it is at the end of the day the same game, right? Why some players are backed on reputation is because of the trust that team management and selectors have in their skill, right? And this is something which will always be subjective, because everyone will rate a particular player's skill differently than the other person. Like I might say that someone like Rishabh Pant has a lot of skill. Someone else out there might feel that no, someone like Sanju Samson is better skilled, or maybe Ishan Kishan is better skilled. So how you measure skill sometimes can be very subjective, and because of that, that measurement, or how see someone's skill, players are picked sometimes on the basis of reputation. Because uh, you know there's also the factor where where it is also thought of that, okay, someone's going through a bad form but you need their skill. Now I keep saying this in KL Rahul's context, that he has a lot of skill and he can be India's Joss Butler, but somehow he bats like India's Babar Azam or Rizwan, if you look at the Asia Cup. But Rizwan has a skill issue. He really doesn't have that many shots on the offside, which KL Rahul has. So there's a reason why someone like KL Rahul is getting picked. There's a reason like why someone like Rishabh Pant is being backed, because the team management, selectors, the captain, everyone thinks that his skill is something that will be unlocked at some point of time. And why is it necessary to back that player? So it but I do agree that in the future we will have different teams. In fact, we will not only have different teams for different formats, we might even have different coaches for different formats, given how much cricket is played in recent times. Excellent question, AB. Is Hardik 2.0 taking responsibility in middle overs and adopting Dhoni's method a worry which has gone unnoticed so far, especially if Pant sits out and he bats at 5 with DK at 6 or 7? Uh, it's an outstanding question, because yes, I do personally feel that after looking at this IPL, that Hardik's power game against spin has probably come down a little. He's not been able to find those boundaries as easily in the first 10 balls as he used to earlier. But again, it's not just a question of his skill, it's also about teams bowling to him much better than what they used to bowl at him earlier. They have studied him. If you look at the 2021 series at home between India and England fast bowlers bowled a lot of short of length balls into Hardik's body, forcing him to make room and hit on the offside. But there were times where Hardik was struggling to do that. And what I feel is that somewhere Hardik still struggles with that length, but overall he's become smarter in understanding which lengths he can manage to hit for a single or get off strikes, and which lengths or lines he can take complete toll off and find boundaries at will. But I do feel that Hardik can still become a better batter by working on those lengths, by becoming better against those lengths. But what has happened with Hardik batting at 4 or 5, as what he was doing with Gujarat Titans and then for the Indian team, is that he's figured out the right tempo where he wants to bat. uh, Maybe it will not go unnoticed if he doesn't do well in this World Cup. Then maybe it will come to the fore. But yes, in Indian cricket, as long as you have the results going your way, a lot of things don't get noticed because the result is paramount. Everyone talks about the process, but when it comes to looking at things closely, everyone forgets it. But this is an excellent question. Somewhere I do feel that Hardik has started to start a little slowly. It's not just because of his ability; it's also because of the situation and the way teams are bowling at him. So, but I think Hardik's good enough to identify this and then come over it eventually. Looking at more questions, a lot of you have sent in a lot of questions. What's your opinion? Again, Mridul Batra has sent in a very good question. What's your opinion on the theory of sending a pinch hitter? I feel T20 teams do underplay this, and likewise, India should send Akshar up to the order to take charge against Nawaz, Shadab, and Keshav. Mridul, I have been of this view that they've been completely underutilized in this format. 100%. Someone like Delhi could have really used this in the IPL when they really had short batting, and they had Akshar at 7, and they could have elongated this batting. What it also does is, if it comes off, it also allows your remaining batters to bat a little bit freely. I thought Rajasthan Royals did this brilliantly in this year's IPL by sending in Ashwin at 3, where on a few occasions Ashwin was just sent in to take the advantage of the power play, and then on other occasions he was just sent in to be a blocker or a pinch blocker and not lose wickets to the new ball. So I feel yes, India wouldn't really use Akshar as a pinch hitter when it comes to batting in the top 3 or top 4, but I think they'll use him probably when a wicket falls in the 7th or 8th over. And yes, you are right, again take charge against spin bowlers. uh, there's a downside though. Sometimes your pinch hitters can get stuck, like how Rahul Tewatia got stuck in that game where he hit those 5 sixes. Those 5 sixes in one over doesn't happen every day. It happens probably once in 100 games, or probably even less than that. So if your pinch hitter gets stuck, then he will start consuming balls, and then there is no way out. So that is why I feel that sometimes teams want to avoid this, because if that happens, then the criticism that comes along with it is so much that it's difficult to explain it to people. So it's a high risk. It's not really a high risk. I feel it's a decent amount of risk with a huge amount of reward it comes off. But yes, what we also need to see is, in the odd occasion where that pinch hitter doesn't work, if that pinch hitter starts taking up balls, how does it affect the dynamic of the whole batting lineup? That is something which could be a collateral damage, and is something that also needs some thinking. But an excellent question, Vidul. Pollard will. Subodh is asking. I think Subodh's an MI fan. Pollard will get retention this year, or MI will release him. Uh, well, knowing MI, given how they value their relations with players a lot, I'd say that they'll probably retain him. But cricketing wise, there's a good logic to not retain him because of what he's done in the last 2 seasons. And especially if you look at it, in the last 4 games of this season, Pollard didn't play. So if that is any indicator, and if Pollard doesn't show great form in the lead up to the IPL, in the T20 leagues that he's playing, then yes, there is a case for Pollard to not be retained. But I'd be very surprised if Mumbai don't retain him. Himanshu's asking Arshdeep or Harshal as the third seamer. Himanshu, I've already answered this. Akshay Badlani is asking, given Sanju has been batting at 6 in the recent ODI series, do you think the Indian management is thinking of replacing DK with Sanju post the T20 World Cup and try him as a finisher given Sanju's game against pace? Honestly, if they were actually looking to replace him, they should have named Sanju Samson in the reserves ahead of Shreyas Iyer, purely because of the reason you mentioned, given Sanju's game against pace and the World Cup being in Australia. So no, I don't see that happening. Uh, I think if Dinesh Karthik gets injured, then someone like Shreyas Iyer will walk into the squad, but I don't see how Shreyas Iyer will fit into the 11 because India already have the top three, and there's Surya Kumar Yadav also, who's very well equipped to bat in the top three. So I really don't know. For these reasons only, I thought that Sanju Samson should have been in the reserves ahead of Shreyas Iyer. Alan Joseph's asking, hi Gurkirat, after 2023 World Cup, which format will Virat continue to play? Well, 2023 is long enough. I think after the T20 World Cup itself, Virat and even Rohit may not play the T20 internationals because of how much cricket that is happening, and their ages and how India need them in the other two formats. 2023 World Cup, I really don't know. We'll have to see how Virat's playing and how he's feeling. It's a difficult question to answer, but I still wanted to take this question because you've been persistent enough with this. Uh, Aditya Vikram Singh is asking, Virat seems to be getting back in the groove, but I am a bit concerned about Rohit's form. What's your take on that, Paji? Uh, I personally have never felt, even when Rohit was not getting a 50 plus score in the IPL, that he was out of form, because I view form very differently as what others view it. I thought that Rohit was getting into great positions, hitting some great shots, and he was in good touch. He was just looking to become a little more aggressive, and trying that role for India as well, and trying to go for everything in the power play. I never thought that it was an issue of form with Rohit. And how Rohit batted in the game against Sri Lanka. That wasn't an easy pitch by any means. It was a very difficult pitch to bat on, and someone like Rohit made it an absolute belter when it wasn't, especially in the first innings. So I really don't think that Rohit's out of form. His strike rate, I think, in the power play is around 150 this IP. Since the time Rahul Dravid has become the coach. So I don't see Rohit's form as a concern. It's just that when you play high risk cricket, sometimes you will get these high variant returns. You will have a 16 ball 28. You'll have a 70 in 45 balls, and then you'll also have uh, a 7 or a 8 ball 3 or 4 runs, because you don't want to bite that time. You just want to keep attacking, and you're happy losing your wicket in the process. So I don't see, like I said, I don't see it as a concern. Don't you think India will regret choosing Chahal over Bishnoi? Mm, it's a very difficult question, because Chahal's been India's go-to spinner in the format for quite some time, and yes, he's had some bad games, and yes, he sometimes, I feel, tends to be over aggressive in the format. But leaving out Chahal also would have been a difficult call. Like I said, last year India didn't even lose in the World Cup because of Chahal not being there, but a lot of talk was about leaving out Chahal. So it was difficult to leave out Chahal anyway, especially given how he had won the purple cap in this IPL. So they may or they may not. It all depends upon how Chahal performs, and I think Chahal's smart and experienced enough to change his lines and lengths according to the situation. Because let's not forget that he's been one of the excellent bowlers of the IPL while playing uh, half of games in Chinnaswamy, which is a graveyard for a lot of bowlers. So Chahal's quality, but I just think that sometimes he becomes a little over aggressive in the format that doesn't really help him. I'll now be ending the show. I've been speaking for 45 minutes. Any last questions? Yash is saying, "Sir, you deserve more watching. You're giving much better answers than people getting watching in thousands. Work on marketing and promoting. Once audience starts building, this show will be a hit." थैंक यू सो मच यश आपके रिस्पॉन्स के लिए. मैं सिर्फ एक चीज़ बोलूंगा कि वर्ड ऑफ माउथ मार्केटिंग से बेटर कोई चीज़ नहीं होती. अगर आपको मेरा शो अच्छा लगता है, अगर आपको cricket.com के शोज अच्छे लगते हैं और उनका कंटेंट अच्छा लगता है, तो आप प्रमोट करिए. You ask your friends to watch cricket.com, subscribe to the channel, follow them on social media, download the app, and that's how we'll build. So We are only interested in giving you cricket content which is based by facts, data, and cricketing logic. Nothing to do with agenda, nothing to do with vibes, and nothing to do which was nothing to based on cliches as well, which was said 20 years ago. We want to give you a modern outlook to the modern game. That's all it is, and that's not just me at cricket.com. That's every person working at cricket.com. That's what it is. uh, uh, Aditya saying that I couldn't even hear your reply. Well, that's okay. That will be there. Thank you, Aditya. I hope to see you more every Friday at 8 p.m. on this show. Uh, Pratik Kandhari is asking, do you think India bagged RP and Avesh a lot and could have tried one more player at respective position? If you look at it, Avesh Khan got around 10 games. Now, if you are not going to give someone 10 matches also in a row, because Avesh played the four matches against South Africa, fifth one didn't happen. Then he played the one T20 game in England, and then he played I think two or three games in West Indies. I think he also played a game in Ireland. I'm not really sure about this. And then he played two games in the Asia Cup. So I think on the whole, he's been given 12, 10, 12 games. Now, if you don't give someone 10, 12 games also, to test them out, then I don't think you've backed them enough or even given them a fair chance of failing, right? So if India would have, say pulled the plug on someone like Avesh Khan after say 5 games, and then they would have say brought in someone like a Siraj or Prasid, and they would have failed as well in 5 games. Then you wouldn't have anyone. You would have, you would have been confused once again. So I think it's okay that India bagged Avesh Khan. What it also does is it sends out a message to all the cricketers who are in the Indian team reckoning that once you get your chance, you will get 10, 15 games at least. That is something which even Shreyas Iyer got before he was dropped. So it is important to give those games. As far as Rishabh Pant is concerned, I have been, saying this, and I've been saying this like a tape recorder, to be very honest, that his skill set is something that separates him from others. The team has a lot of faith in his skill set. And Rishabh Pant, as of now in T20 internationals, is kind of in the same situation that someone like Rohit Sharma was in ODI cricket from 2007 or 2008 to 2013, where he'll be in the side and out of side. When he'll not be in the side, he will score huge runs in domestic cricket. Then he'll come back. He'll sometimes get injured, or sometimes he'll not be consistent. And there will always be that talk. And then eventually, when he became an opener, he became consistent. So I think someone like Rohit Sharma also understands why it is important to back players, back players who you think have a lot of skill. And I think Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma have a lot of faith in Rishabh Pant's skill. You should have seen Rahul Dravid celebrate Rishabh Pant's 100 in that test match in his Baston. So that tells you. And Rahul Dravid is someone who's seen Rishabh Pant since 2016, when Rishabh Pant was playing the Under 19 World Cup. So he knows what Rishabh Pant is capable of, and that is why I think he's got that much backing. And him being a left-hander also helps his case. So yes, Rishabh Pant has been backed a lot. And even if India were looking to replace Rishabh Pant with someone, right, they wanted to avoid a similar situation that happened with Ambati Raidu and Vijay Shankar just before the 2019 World Cup. And that, got brought Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri a lot of criticism. So they didn't think that, making any change at this point of time was ideal. And that is why they have continued to back Rishabh Pant. And with this, I'll now end the show, because it's been 49 minutes that have been going on. 49 reminds me of the joke, of the number that RCB fans and KKR fans will very fondly remember. But jokes apart, it's been great doing the show. I loved the fact that a lot of you sent in your questions, and more importantly, you show that faith that I can answer your questions in the right manner. Hopefully, whatever answers that I came up with, or whatever reasonings or justifications that I could come up with, made sense to you. If it didn't, you can always reach out to me, write to me, send me a DM on Twitter or on Instagram. And you can always send in your questions or comments in the comment section of the YouTube video or under our tweets. We are always there to look at the feedback. And that's more or less. I really enjoyed doing this. Okay. And on your screen now, you can see the handles of cricket.com. We are cricket.com/TV on YouTube, cricket.com/official on Instagram. We are cricket on Twitter. And you can always go to our these pages. Also, do follow us and do subscribe to our channel for more such content. And I'll be back again next Friday, 8 p.m., discussing a few more deep points on the game of cricket, the game that we love so much. Thank you so much. That's it from me.